documents, congressional reports and testimony, and media reports. Those sources credited where appropriate in the text and cited in the select bibliography were used to provide context, fill gaps during periods when the primary sources weren't present, and to confirm or elaborate upon the participants' recollections. Further discussion of sourcing can be found at the end of the book, in a note on sources. Previous accounts of these events in books, magazines, and other media have disturbed and even disgusted the men whose story is told here. Versions with fictionalized dialogue, imaginary incidents, false or exaggerated claims, and sensationalized allegations serve no purpose other than to inflame and obfuscate. The goal of the real security team members is to recount the Battle of Benghazi through as transparent a lens as possible. They and the family of a sixth operator have a financial stake in this book, but their only editorial demand was that the story be told truthfully. It would be folly to think that this or any other account would be the last word on events with such wide-ranging implications. But after so many words have already flowed, with many more to come, consider it the first word directly from the battlefield, from men who know from hard experience and seared memories what actually happened during those harrowing 13 hours. Prologue. A bloodthirsty mob bore down on the United States' poorly defended diplomatic post in Benghazi, Libya. Besieged American envoys and staffers withdrew to a locked room as fires set by the attackers drew closer. The Americans prayed and appealed for rescue, calling home to Washington and to nearby allies. If no help came, they feared one of three fates. They'd be killed by the invaders, suffocate from smoke, or be roasted alive. In the meantime, they'd fight. The date was June 5, 1967. War had just begun between Israel and Egypt, and morning radio reports in Benghazi were filled with false claims that U.S. military planes had provided air cover for Israeli attacks or had bombed Cairo, less than 700 miles away. Hundreds of Benghazans swarmed into the streets and rallied at the consulate of the United Arab Republic, as Egypt was then called. The demonstrators' ranks swelled with some of the 2,000 Egyptian construction workers then in Libya to build an Olympic-style stadium. Soon they turned violent. The throng grabbed cobblestones from the torn-up streets and headed toward a former Italian bank building that housed the American consulate. A handful of Libyan guards fled their posts. The attackers barraged the building with stones and broke through the barred windows and the heavy front door. As the horde approached, the 8 American men and 2 women inside the building frantically burned sensitive documents. The consulate workers were well armed, but the officer in charge, Jon Krasinski, recounted in a memoir that he ordered that no one shoot, lest they enrage the mob further. The Americans tossed tear gas grenades to slow the onslaught. Cornered, they met their enemies with rifle butts and axe handles, then retreated up a wide marble staircase. They took refuge in a second-floor vault used as the consulate's communications hub. Unable to reach their quarry but unwilling to leave, the attackers pillaged the building and set it aflame. Corman feared that the invaders would splash gasoline under the vault door to burn or suffocate the Americans. He kept that thought to himself as fire engulfed the consulate. One consolation for Corman and his colleagues was that the intense heat and thick smoke drove back the mob. The Americans shared 5 gas masks as they destroyed top-secret files and disabled cryptographic machines. Several climbed up to the roof to continue burning documents, but returned inside when a group of men dropped a ladder down from an adjoining roof and rushed toward them. Unable to reach the consulate workers, the attackers cut the halyard that hoisted the American flag on a rooftop pole, allowing it to hang limp down the front of the building. A U.S. Army captain asked Corman's permission to re-raise the flag. Corman refused, but later relented. "I had been a combat paratrooper in World War II," he wrote. "I knew what defiance and a bit of bravura could do for soldiers under mortal stress. A display of courage can be infectious and inspiring, just as an act of cowardice can be demoralizing." Dodging rocks hurled from below, the captain dashed onto the roof and restored the Stars and Stripes to its rightful place. State Department officials in Washington discussed rescue options, including sending a Marine unit and using paratroopers. But executing those plans would take more time than the Americans had. Meanwhile, the trapped Americans got sporadic